Hey folks, Lee Purcell with Reel Rollers, and I'm super excited about this video that we're going to put together for you. This video is going to show you how to exchange the reel assembly in your Revolution mower with another reel assembly and take advantage of our reels by mail. So let's begin. So let's first talk about the parts. The other thing I want to show you is what you can expect if you buy an additional reel assembly. So when you purchase an additional reel assembly from Reel Rollers for your Revolution, in each package will be your reel, the bed knife, everything assembled, as well as these custom foam end pieces to make sure it's safe in the event that you want to ship these reels to us, and that we can grind them sharp for you professionally and get it back to you while you have your backup reel in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the side cover as well as the grass shield. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my height of cut. It just gives me a little more access as I take the reel out. So I'm going to crank it up to about, I don't know, 1.25 inches. Like I said, side cover is off. Now we're going to take the grass shield out. Use my Phillips head. And I usually use a drill when I'm removing things, but when I put it back in, I usually use a hand tool to make sure I don't strip anything. Both the screws are out. And there goes the grass shield. And now let's remove the chains. I'm going to be removing the number 40 chain here and the number 35 chain. Those are the only two chains that need to come out. Got that off, we're going to take the clutch itself off the mower, and I'm going to keep it together, the clutch, you'll see when I pull it off. So I'm going to grab number 16 socket and it's 2x4 because this will be tight. It's a standard thread, so lefty loosey, righty tighty. You see how I get the 2x4 right here underneath this blade using the roller, and I broke it free. And now as I take the reel clutch off, I'm going to try to keep it all together. We have another video, if you're not able to keep it all together at once. And you can see I just pulled this little spring right off of this lever. It was right there, and it came right off. I'm going to set this right here. One thing you want to pay attention to is this little keyway. I'm going to show you right there. See it in the video? That was actually right here in the reel shaft. So just make sure you grab that out and keep that with your parts, and just keep it all together like that. So now that we've got the spring off, the clutch off, I'm going to loosen and remove just this front bolt because it gives me easy access to these two bed knife holder bolts. So I'm going to use my reel to bed knife tool because it's just super easy. It's a 13 millimeter right there. So I'm going to take the front bolt out, and I'm just going to loosen the back bolt, and you'll see why. Once I get this loose, those parts come right there. I'm going to set them down, and see how I just rotated that out of my way. So we're going to take off. What's holding the reel in place are these two bed knife holder bolts, as well as on the other side the exact same bolts, and I'll show you those in a second. So let's go ahead and put our 16. So everything on the mower has pretty much been a 13 as far as y'all know. These are a little bit bigger bolts because they're more robust. So I'm going to get my wrench on there, my socket, and I'm going to loosen both of them on this side. Ooh. They're loose. And then I'm going to take you to the other side real quick and show you what I do over there. So on this side, these are the 2 bolts holding on the bed knife holder on this side. And really it's the entire reel assembly. I'm now going to lower the mower, the height of cut, so that the bed knife is actually sitting on the ground. Sounds like our phone is ringing, but that's just today here at Reel Rollers. We'll get through this. So I'm lowering my head of cut all the way until the bed knife is resting on the ground, and this makes removing it really easy. Now I'm going to set it behind the mower. Set it right there, because I'm going to tip the mower back here in a second, briefly, to let the reel stay in place as I move it off. So, now that I've got the bed knife on the ground, I'm going to loosen up these bolts all the way now. That one's out. That one's super loose. I'm going to do it on the other side. If you want to come around here, Hayes, I'll show you guys. Once you got them hand loose, it's pretty easy just to pull out. There's a little bit of pressure on this bottom one, so I'm just going to lift the reel up a little bit by the blade. Being careful. I'm just taking some of the pressure off. Now when I remove this bolt, you'll see this metal casing, these 2 metal plates, sit right there. They just come right off. I'm going to set them right there. That, on top of taking this last bolt out, has the reel assembly out. Now, here's the cool part. What I'm going to do now that my bed knife is sitting on the ground is I'm actually just going to tip the mower back, and you'll see my reel stayed right here on the ground. I'm going to set it back down nicely. This is the reel assembly. Bed knife holder, bed knife, reel. I'm going to set the reel assembly down. It's sitting on its bed knife right now. I'm just going to reverse everything we just did. So now that it's sitting on the bed knife, it's roughly in place. What I'm going to do is go ahead and get these bolts started. So I like to go side to side. So I'll simply slide this assembly to where the holes line up, like they did right there. So I got that hole pretty darn close. Just gonna try to move the spring out of here so you can see, but both of them are pretty close. So I'm gonna take this plate, and I'm gonna put it right back in place. And then to get this lined up, I'm just lifting the reel up a little bit and getting it started. So I'm gonna start 1 bolt on each side. So I'm gonna run to the other side here. Same thing. I'm just gonna move the reel a little bit by hand. Get these holes lined up just to get it started. Now, I'm going to show you 2 tricks real quick. I'm going to take my bed knife, reel bed knife adjustment tool, and I'm going to stick it on this right side. What that does is it makes sure that when I tighten everything up, there's still enough clearance in the future for me to adjust the reel to bed knife. So I'm just setting it on that bolt, not turning it, just leaving it there. So we'll go back over here. And now, we talked about this keyway. The rounded side is horizontal. So I spun my reel by hand until it's 12 o'clock, and I'll let you get a look at this. I set it in there just like that. Okay? Next, I'm going to take 1 part off the clutch. So if you go over to this clutch, I'm going to take this 1 spindle piece called a spline. We're going to take this off, and the smooth side, just like it was on in the clutch, is going to slide right over the shaft. Just like that. Now that that's in place, I have these all tightened up by hand. I'm going to go ahead and tighten them up a little bit more by hand. And what I want to make sure I do is this plate can move just so slightly up and down for adjustments. I want to make sure that this plate right here I'm pointing at is centered so that there's no contact or rubbing when I rotate the reel. See, this way it's contacting technically, I'd like to have it in the middle. Not sure that it'll do any kind of damage because it's metal on metal and it'd take a lot of wear, but just to make sure, I've got it centered. And now what I'm going to do is grab my 16mm socket like I had, and I'm going to tighten all 4 bed knife bolts by rotating them in a kind of like putting a tire on a car. So I'm going to tighten this till it's kind of snug. Go to this one, tighten it snug. And y'all can stay there, but I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So for those of you that follow specs, these bolts should be turned to 33 pounds of torque. What that means for the average guy without a torque reader is you kind of man up on it pretty good. So you got, that's pretty good. I'm gonna do this one too. Make sure I still got my clearance, I do. Oh, yeah. You don't want to strip it, but you definitely can put those on pretty tight. There's some heavy duty bolts. Same thing on this side. So we've got this in place. I am now going to grab the assembly, still put together, the clutch assembly. I'm going to take my bolt out, set it right there. Got my blue Loctite. First thing I'm going to do is take the spring and slide it onto this lever. And this lever should be facing about 4 o'clock. So I'm going to slide it back to about 4 o'clock. And then my focus, if you come above me, right up here, is to simply marry those plates so that they're flush, just like so. Now that those are in place, make sure my spring didn't fall off. Now, gotta have my blue Loctite. I'm gonna slide that right in there. Make sure that when you do the blue Loctite, it is removable, but it stops from vibrations. I went back to my 13mm. Make sure you let this dry, the blue Loctite, for at least, I would say 12 hours, but 24 hours is ideal. Now I'm going to jam my 2x4 in here real quick between the blades and torque this until the mower starts to come up. There's popping up. The spec is 22 pounds of torque. We've got that on there. Our spring is on there. You can see our plates are married up. We're good there. Now, I'm going to raise my height of cut again to give me clearance to get to the last 2 parts. Next, we're going to put our tensioner on. So, I grab my tensioner parts right here. Rotate it right there. So at this point, guys, the only thing left to do is put the grass shield in, throw my chains back on, which we have videos for, and then put on my metal side cover. Once everything is back together, that's when I'll adjust my reel to bed knife, just to make sure that once everything tightens up, to ensure that everything's snug and aligned right. Because when you put all these parts, the reel assembly back into a new frame or back into the frame, things may adjust a little bit. So you definitely want to wait till after you get everything snugged up to adjust your reel to bed knife. So that really takes 17 minutes, maybe once or twice a season at most is when you'll do this, but it saves you the time of loading up a mower, taking it to a place, being without a mower, and your grass continuing to grow. And in the event that you damage a reel or something happens, you always have a backup. Anyway, thank you guys for your time. Hope you have a great day, and happy mowing.